Batman. He's campy. He's serious. He's not really the one you came to see the movie for. He's edgy. He's old. He deals with cold people. And then there's the Batwoman that he deals with. He's campy in animation. He's genuinely good. Then of course we have Mask of the Phantasm. And then there's Batman Begins. And the Tim Burton movies. This is a big stack, of course, so I guess you can understand what the point of this is. This is the Batman episode. That's going to start talking about the various incarnations of Batman. First, we're going to talk about the movies. The movies. The thing that reignited Batman in the hearts and minds of the people since the Adam West show. It's thanks to the Tim Burton movies, if I remember correctly. Let's see, when did these come out? 1989. Let's check the animated series. Oh yes, it says it right here. Batman the Animated Series, the first episode date was September 5th, 1992. The very first Batman was 1989, so I'm guessing this started the whole revival of The Dark Knight on the television screen. It's thanks to Tim Burton we've got Batman again. You see, long ago, in the groovy era of the 1960s, and I apologize I don't have a hard copy of this to show you, we had Adam West as the Dark Knight in a more comedic, campier version. There wasn't too many super awesome, badass fight, pow, pow, pow fight scenes, but whenever there was a punch thrown, you would show an animated kerpow sign on the screen. It was very campy, and it is very quite beloved. But this isn't the campy Batman that you think it would be when it comes out. Tim Burton created a Batman that was a little bit darker. Probably more akin to how some of the comics are starting to be around that time. I don't read the comics, I wouldn't know, okay? I don't read the comics. I haven't read a single Batman, Superman, any DC, Marvel. I don't read comics. If that insults you, then please feel free to be insulted. It's no skin off my nose. I don't read the comics. I'm just going to be talking about the stuff that you see on the screen here. This revived Batman, apparently. And these two are genuinely viewed as the good ones. The good ones. After these two, Batman and Batman Returns, which Batman is played by Michael Keaton, after these two, it started to get a little bit weird. These two are the Joel Schumacher Batman movies. Now, people actually quite liked Batman Forever, but they realized that since the Tim Burton era... it looks better, yeah. Since the Tim Burton era, The Dark Knight started to get a little bit more campy in this one. The villains were starting to get a little bit more zany, they were starting to get a little bit more animated, a little bit more cartoon character-y. The sets were still delightful. Let's talk about that for a moment. Gotham City has never looked so good on the big screen than in these 4 films. And yes, these 4 films showed Gotham City in its most spectacular. The city is almost a character in and of itself. The sets were beautiful. It looked gothic. There were good statues, big statues and all that stuff. If you watched the animated series and all the statues and the way the city looked, it's sparked by this hits of the ideas you saw here. and perhaps from the comics, but I'm not pulling from the comics. I'm not talking about the comics. But the city looked beautiful in these 4 films. As campy as these were, the city remained beautiful in these 2 films, as it were in these 2 films. In this film, our villain is the Joker, played by Jack Nicholson. In this one, our villain is the Penguin, played by Danny DeVito. And then we have Catwoman here, who also does her thing, and then she vanishes for these 2 films. In this film, we have Val Kilmer taking over for Michael Keaton. For some reason, I don't know why Michael Keaton didn't come back, but Val Kilmer took over, and we've got the Riddler and Two-Face. Those are our 2 villains, and you'll notice that the shtick here from going forward is that it's 2 villains. 2 villains. Instead of 1 villain, it's 2 villains. So we've got 2 big villains, the Riddler and Two-Face. Two-Face appears to be just a campy, very campy character. His backstory is just passively glanced over. You don't really know too much about him. He apparently used to be a lawyer that went crazy, mental disorder and all that stuff, but you don't see too much about it. He's here after he went crazy. We don't see any origin to this. The origin villain story in Batman Forever is the Riddler. It's mostly the Riddler's movie. The Riddler is the one who manipulates Two-Face into his schemes and his all that stuff. And we have Robin here, who shows up as well, played by Chris O'Donnell, the guy from the NCIS New Orleans show. Yeah, that man. And then there's whoever she is. Some sort of whatever psychiatrist lady. She's not important. I don't even think she's in this one. And if she is, she's not played by the same character. The story is admittedly vastly inferior to these 2 when it comes to what's going on. The villains are not as strong, though Jim Carrey, his camp is good. It's good, but he just doesn't. He portrays a different view of the whatever. Just accept that this is going to be the campy Batman. It's campy Batman. Joel Schumacher in Batman Forever and in Batman and Robin must be a big fan of the Adam West series. He must be a fan of it. I haven't seen the Adam West series. I haven't seen it in its entirety. I've seen maybe at least 2 episodes, and I can't even remember what they were. But I have seen clips of Mr. Freeze. I've seen clips of Mr. Freeze in the Adam West show. And in the Adam West show with Mr. Freeze, he's looking for diamonds to do some freezing cold thing. And he makes a bunch of cold puns. I'm sorry, Batman, but that's the way the ice cube crumbles, or something like that. He makes a bunch of cold jokes, just like Arnold Schwarzenegger does in this movie, though it's turned up to like 10,000. But it's like that Joel Schumacher was a fan of the Adam West show, and he wanted to put that into Tim Burton's Batman set drop. Because the city still looks beautiful, still looks just like the Tim Burton, but gone is the more serious undertones. These 2 films weren't exactly super serious in and of itself, but because Danny DeVito, the Penguin, but it's still there. It's still got that aura about it of competency and consistency from first to second film. But then we go into the 3rd one, and then into the 4th one, and we go campy and campier. We have genuinely good, possibly better, campier. Now, lots of things get sacrificed in this. Consistency of story, quality of characters, a lot of things fall down. We see Batman struggling with his past, which we already covered that in these 2 films, but we apparently have to cover it again because it's a new Batman character, new actor. We have to just do it again, I guess. But apparently he's going through his past for the psychological thing because he's taking the psychiatrist and all that stuff. Chris O'Donnell is competent, but he's not the best Robin. the best part of Batman Forever are the villains. Okay, Two-Face and the Riddler are fantastically campy and over the top. They are cartoon characters. And it's very enjoyable. It's very enjoyable. And in Batman and Robin, notoriously terrible bad film, I actually ended up enjoying. I enjoy it. Not because it's good. Not because it's bad, so bad it's funny. I didn't laugh. I didn't laugh at all in Batman and Robin. I didn't find it that funny. I didn't find it good. I didn't find it bad. I just found it entertaining. Mr. Freeze makes a lot of jokes about ice and stuff. His accent is very similar to the one in the Adam West show. He's also after the diamonds to power his devices in the Adam West show. And if you notice, there's some Adam West nods here and there. For example, in his lair, there's a little lever that Commissioner Gordon pulls to turn off the cold stuff, and you have red lights turning on. In the Adam West show, Mr. Freeze has red lights that he turns on to have warmer areas for his henchmen to not freeze in, because he has to be cold to survive, but he understands other people can't survive in the same level of cold. So he's polite. Arnie here plays that vibe of character from the Adam West show and turns the cartoon character vibe on and scales it up to 10,000. But you could tell that the origin of the idea stems from that campiness of the Adam West show. The quips between Batman and Robin, the quips between all that stuff, it has roots more in the Adam West show than it did in this, if that makes sense. At least that's my opinion from what I've seen from these films. Oh, and of course George Clooney plays Batman in this. He's fine. He's fine. Val Kilmer's fine. He's fine. Do we like Michael Keaton more? Perhaps we do. But these two are competent. They're competent. I don't know why Val Kilmer didn't reprise his role here. I don't know why. And then people make a lot of jokes about nipples being the best. I don't care about that. It doesn't bother me. But they camp it. They camp it up. They have a lot of shots of the Batman's butt in the suit, and they have shots of Robin's butt in the suit, and they have shots of Batgirl's butt in the suit. I don't know why when they have the suit up montage, they have to have a little camera pan to the characters' rectal regions, but they do it. They do it for reasons. These are cartoon movies in live action. They're very entertaining. These aren't cartoon movies in live action. These are just live action versions of Batman. That's how you should view them. It's just two different... Now we come to Christopher Nolan and his interpretation of the Batman. Now, I've seen this trilogy many times. I've seen these three films more than I've seen the Schumacher films. I've seen the Schumacher films maybe once or twice. I've seen the Tim Burton films maybe once or twice. These films here I've seen at least 10 times each. This has been on TV so many times. This has been on TV so many times. This has been on TV so many times. It went back during the cable days. They just reran it. They ran it and reran it and re-reran it. They still rerun these on cable television. But, I don't watch them on cable television anymore. I've got the DVDs. Ugh. But as you can see... No, reverse it. There, it looks better now. 1, 2, 3... Okay, so these are more of a realistic take on the Batman. Suspend a realistic take a little bit, because, as Cape Crusader with the super techie stuff. But it's more of a realistic take on the story, if that makes sense. Of course, we have all this sciencing stuff going on. But it's a more realistic take from what Christopher Nolan is trying to do. He's trying to make a very realistic Batman. Very realistic villains, a realistic Ra's al Ghul, a very realistic Joker, Bane, So, we start off with Batman Begins, which I honestly might say is my favorite of the trilogy. I know a lot of people like The Dark Knight for Joker. I don't really care for the Joker. I don't really care for this Joker. I'll get to him in a minute. In this, we have Ra's al Ghul as our primary villain, with the Scarecrow as our secondary villain. We have the origin, Batman Begins naturally, the origins of Bruce Wayne off being a vagabond traveling the world after he turned into an adult to go do his stuff, and he's picked up by Ra's al Ghul and is trained by the League of Shadows. Ra's al Ghul wants Bruce to basically join him, which in the show, in the comics and all that stuff, Ra's al Ghul wants Bruce to basically replace him as the leader of his little unit. He wants him to become, he treats him like a surrogate son. That's how much respect and care Ra's has to Bruce. He's just very disappointed in all the choices that Bruce has made. And he's just being a very patient father figure, waiting for Bruce to get out of his phase and come back to where he belongs. Ra's can wait. He's very patient. This isn't the same Ra's as the one I've been talking about. This one is more of a realistic take. He's not immortal, for one thing. There's no Lazarus pit, for one thing. He's just a very prominent leader of an assassin organization with a dream of New World Order. And he thought that Bruce Wayne had that same vision that would eventually become one of his people. But Bruce eventually decided, hey, I'm not the type to kill people. I agree with the whole New World Order thing, but I'm not the type of person to kill people to get that vision of the society that you want. And so they come to a disagreement, and Bruce leaves. I don't want to take 50 minutes just to talk about all this stuff, but let's just say all of the stuff, the fear gas from the Scarecrow, Ra's plans, his minions, all of this stuff, even the way the Gotham City looks, it all looks realistic. There's no giant Gothic statues, there's no over-the-top characters, there's no over-the-top campy acting. It's all very serious, very realistic tone in general. Coming off of the animated series into this, I didn't mind this, but I still preferred the animated series as Batman. This animated series as Batman, which came around thanks to the Tim Burton movies. And that's one thing that we could talk about here with the Schumacher movies, is that this was going on while the Schumacher movies were being made. So let's talk about that for a moment. Okay? So in these were made in 95 and 97 respectively. The animated series began sometime around 1992. Mask of the Phantasm hit theaters in, I believe it was 93 or 94. So this has been around for a while before Schumacher came out from the shadows to create the third, and the fourth Batman films. And it's like Batman's a cartoon character now. How do we do this? So Joe's combining the Adam West with the cartoon, and it's like a merging of everything. These are cartoons in live action, probably influenced by these being cartoons. It's ironically more serious than this. This is more serious than this. So how do you make sense of that? I don't know. But there you have it. There's that. I just wanted to get through that for a moment. But coming out of the animated series and into Christopher Nolan's Batman Dark Knight trilogy, I didn't know what to think. I enjoyed these movies. I've watched them and rewatched them, but there was still that something nagging at the back of my brain thinking, I still prefer these. I still prefer these films to this. I don't know why I keep watching these. I don't know why I keep putting it in my player, or why I keep feeling like not changing the channel when it comes on cable, back when I was watching cable. But I just didn't know why I kept watching. What was it about Nolan's Batman trilogy that I thought was inferior to the animated series? I don't know what it was about it that just made me keep watching. I just don't know. But there was something about these films that just kept you coming back. Maybe it's because they over-syndicated it. They over-marketed it. You couldn't get away from it. Maybe that might have been why. I don't know. Maybe there's just nothing else on TV at the time. And that's not surprising. When we get into The Dark Knight, I had said I would get into The Dark Knight to explain why I don't really care for this Joker. I can appreciate this Joker. I can. This Joker feels like somebody who went into the army. He was ex-special forces. He's seen some shit, right? This guy has seen some stuff. And he's come back disillusioned with the world and a bit kooky in the head. And he's like, it's time we topple this system, right? It's time that this old reality and your fake senses of morality, it's time to turn it up on its head. It's time to turn Batman upside down. And that's basically what this film is. We have two villains in this. We have the Joker and Two-Face, the origin of Two-Face. And I didn't mind the origin of Two-Face. Aaron Eckhart plays Two-Face here, and it's fine. Two-Face in this is fine. Commissioner Gordon in this is superior to the Commissioner Gordon from the Joel Schumacher films. A lot of it is good. A lot of it is good. Most of it is good. It's just, there's a vibe to it. This is the live-action Batman. The Batman the most likely scenario. If this were to ever be a reality in which this stuff exists, it would exist in this way. With these types of villains, with these types of characters, with these types of motivations. If that makes sense. And that's probably what Nolan was trying to do. He was trying to create a live-action film. He was not adapting an animated series into a film. He wasn't reviving an old kooky 60s show into live-action rendition after 20, 30 years. He was making a Batman movie, live-action, reality, and in many ways he succeeded. Because I can't find too much stuff that I could say that I don't like. It's just I like other things more. I like the Joker from Mark Hamill with the animated series. I like that Joker a lot more than this Joker. Do I like this Joker more than the Jack Nicholson Joker? No, I like the Jack Nicholson Joker more. He was more of a jokester, gangster type character, but he still had a bag of tricks, he had a bag of jokes, he made quips, he was still quite kooky. This Joker is more unhinged. This Joker's more unhinged than he is Joker, you know? This is just an unhinged person with clown makeup on. It could be anybody out there. It could be anybody out there. And that's probably what's so scary about this character. Is that he could be anybody out there. Anybody could be this Joker. If if they were ex-special forces and all that stuff and had access to all that other... But don't think about that. But this one here... Oh, gosh, let's talk about this one. I hate this movie. The special effects are beautiful. The whole plane scene at the beginning, that's amazing. The whole stadium scene, that's amazing. The whole locking off Gotham, middle of the city, it's amazing. It all looks so good. I hate it. I hate Bane in this. I hate him. This is probably the worst version of Bane that I've ever seen. I've seen the Arkham Trilogy on the video games. I've seen the Arkham Trilogy's Bane. I've seen the animated series' Bane. I've seen the Dumbo Wumbo Bane from the Joel Schumacher movie. I've seen many incarnations of Bane, and I would say that the only one this Bane might be a little bit better than is the Joel Schumacher one. Because the Joel Schumacher one, well, I like that one's design more. Oh, that Joel Schumacher's one is just a Dumbo that just says one word. Ivy says, Bane, exit! And then Bane shouts, exit! And then punches a hole in the wall and they run out. Ugh. So I would say that this Bane might be a little bit better than Batman and Robin's Bane. A little bit better than Joel Schumacher's Bane. But every other Bane that I've ever encountered is far superior to this Bane. Now I understand. I do. He wanted to make a realistic Bane. We can't have Venom and turning this person into a roided out big we couldn't do that. We couldn't do that. He had to come up with something following on what he's done before with the unintentional passing of Mr. Ledger. He had to salvage this. Mr. Ledger was the best part of the Dark Knight, and that's what everybody came there to see, less than Batman. And now we're left with the film that he was supposed to show up in, but, you know, he's not here anymore, so what can we do? Well, we now have to go back to the first film with Ra's al Ghul, and now we say, oh, let's bring in his daughter. Let's bring in his daughter, and she wants revenge for her daddy's death, and then she finds Bane in some prison or whatever, in some prison, Eastern Europe prison, and that's where Bane's from. He's just some guy from the prison who was a big strong guy, and that's it. That's all he is. He's very intelligent, but most of his smart. Gosh. I really can't find too much to praise about this film. The character is so bad, the motives are so bad, and it's so random. It's no wonder this ended here. It made a lot of money, a lot of people liked it, made a lot of money, but you could tell that this was like, if this was the starting point out of a graph of, say, that height, if this was the starting point here, then this would be the sequel to The Audience. This would be the sequel, and then this would be the third film. So 1, 2, 3. So the 2, oh, that's upside down, isn't it? Let's see if I could do whatever, I don't care. So 1, 2, 3. If that's the one that people say is the least good, this one's the best, and this one's not as good as this one. Well, for me personally, here's how I would say. The first film starts out, like, say, right around here. And then the second film is, like, right around here. It's not as good. And then the third film is, like, right here. So there you go. And, of course, it's right, you know. So this is the first film, this is the second film, this is the third. That's how I view the Nolan trilogy. The third one's not good. The second one's not as good as the first one. The first one is a good, solid film. It's a solid film. 2 is more of a morality game. It's a game of morality. It's a game with a very, 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 very interesting character. It's just a character, while interesting, it's just not the Joker to me. It's just not. And that's just my opinion. It's just my opinion. Okay, we're closing on 30 minutes. We're gonna rush through this stuff. We got 3 more here that I've picked up that I've seen before. So we've got 3 more here that we're gonna go through. Okay? We got Batman Ninja, Batman vs. Superman, and Batman Hush. Now, I have Justice League back there, but I'm not. This is just gonna be the representative of the Snyder stuff. So let's start off with Snyder stuff, okay? Batman's Batman. He does his Batman thing. Snyder apparently is a big fan of the Nolan trilogy, I'm guessing, because this Batman is basically a lot like the Christian Bale Batman. He's basically a lot like the Christian Bale Batman. We don't see a lot of Gotham City in this movie. We don't see a lot of Gotham City in Justice League. But from what little we see of Gotham City, it's like a mix between the Nolan Gotham and the Tim Burton Gotham. So, it's a mix. It's a mix. These feel more like comic book movies than the Nolan movies did. They feel more like comic book movies. And I understand that people didn't like Superman in the Snyderverse. I can understand that. I can understand that. But I liked Superman in this. It's a different version of Superman. There's plenty of versions of Superman. There's plenty of versions of Batman. Look at this. This is an anime Batman. This is anime Batman. This is good Batman. And this is just Batman, okay? There's plenty of versions of every character. This is just one of them. And I liked this version. And I like other versions of Superman, whatever. We're gonna keep it to Batman. Batman's a good detective. This showed good detective work. We don't see much of that. In the Joel Schumacher Batmans, we don't see Batman do detective stuff. In the Tim Burton stuff, we don't see him do detective stuff as much. In the Nolan verse, we didn't see him do detective stuff as much. This was like one of the first times we see him do be detective, going through the technologies and be looking for information, looking up people. He's the one who finds her, and he finds Aquaman, and he finds the Flash, and all that stuff. He's the one who does the tinkering with the technologies and the detective works. This is the person who finds things, information. He spots details with everybody else. That's the thing that I felt that many of the movies missed, is that Batman is one of the best detectives ever. And that's something that this did a little bit better than the other films, to me. And I like that. I liked Ben Affleck as Batman. Okay? That's it. We're done with that. Okay, let's start talking about these two. There's been a large amount of animated DC films, and arguably, not even arguably, they are genuinely better than the live-action DC films. In every way, shape, and form, DC rules the animated stuff. Marvel, when it tries to do animated stuff, just doesn't cut it as well. Now, in the 90s, there were 2 really good Spider-Man and the X-Men series. Those were very good Marvel shows. Very good animated series. Very good. Everybody says that the X-Men series is so good. X-Men Evolution wasn't as good, but it was still good. But in regards to, like, animated feature films and things like that, it appears that DC is ruling the roost in comparison to the Marvels. But it doesn't matter, because Marvel's animated live-action movies are king. They're making billions of dollars and all that stuff. I mean, sure, DC movies are making billions, apparently. Aquaman made a billion. Aquaman made $1 billion, I think. It probably made a lot of money. Batman vs. Superman made a lot of money. I made a lot of money. Justice League made a lot of money. So, even if they are not as good, they still make a lot of money. I guess people are just very hopeful. They really want these movies to be good, so they go to see them only to complain about them later. I don't know. I keep going on tirades. It's 34 minutes long. I don't know how long I can keep going. Batman Hush is an anime movie. Batman. They went to Japan people. The Japan people. All these people are Japan names. Most of them, like the Takashi, the Yuki, blah blah blah, Tetsuro. A lot of the animation is Japan animation styles and all of this stuff. The story's over the top. It's full blown. It's like Power Rangers near the end with Batman and all the Bat teams with the Robins and the Darkwings and the Nightwings and the Darkwing Ducks and all that other stuff. Batman's got a big team, then Joker's got a big team, and everybody. And it's all throughout Japan. It's over the top. It's so campy and it's garbage. It's so crazy, and it was critically. Everybody said people said they don't like this as much. I enjoyed the heck out of this movie, man. I think it's vastly superior to the Schumacher films, because this is actually a cartoon. But I like camp. I like campy stuff. I love the campy superhero stuff, and this was amazing. This is just what I was looking for with the campy stuff, okay? That's all I gotta say about that, alright? That's all I gotta say about that. Now we're on to this. This is the last thing we're gonna talk about. Batman Hush. It's a representation of the DC line of movies. There's like 20 plus of them right now. They're all sharing the DCAU. I think that's what they call it. The DCAU. The DC Animated Universe. The Animated Universe. Everything is commingled together with all these stories. There's Superman here, there's Banes, and there's Jokers, and everybody is all over the place. I'm just talking about the DCAU in general. And the Batman in the DCAU is fantastic. There's nothing more I could say. This is the epitome of Batman. If you want Batman, you want the animated universe as Batman or the animated series as Batman. Those are the two best versions, in my opinion, that I have seen. I don't read the comics, but everything that you've seen so far, the animated Batmans are superior to the live-action Batmans in almost every way, shape, and form. This concludes the Batman tour of these film files. I'm done.